Okay, hi everybody who's watching. This is us, the Miraculous Maestros crew, and we do these conversations in the deep field quite regularly. We've done them on Mysterium Tremendum, and I can't even remember what else, quantum being, I think, and all kinds of good stuff. So today we're going to talk about youthing and immortality, which we have some real specialties here in this group. So when they introduce themselves, I'll let you know about that. But for me, I'm 71 and I say I'm 17 actually, because that's how I feel. And I do feel quite like I'm getting younger all the time. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit, because I'm really into how your being rejuvenates you, how the life force of your being rejuvenates you and how you can use that, and super health and all of that kind of stuff. But I thought maybe we'd start with Doriana, because she's our super expert on youthing. So Doriana, would you introduce yourself? And then, you and I were chatting a little bit about the difference between youthing and immortality. Could you say a little bit about your view of that as well? And then dive in for whatever you want to say.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm Doriana Peterson, and I live in Tucson. And I've known since the 80s, the early 80s, that we don't have to age and get decrepit. And I termed that youthing, and I've been given ever since then all these different things that lead to things that make us more youthful, and also in overcoming those beliefs and fears that we are going to get decrepit and get old and die. And those are things that have been placed into our consciousness many, many years and thousands of years ago. And so now is the time when we're able to go into the next levels and frequencies and dimensions in this new era. And so that's been my forte for many years. And this is my 77th year. And I just feel and be maybe like I'm 30 or thereabouts or whatever. There's no really age anymore. And as we look around, we can see different people and how they are appearing youthful, and they are youthful, and they aren't in sync with what we would term as being in this age or that age. So that's where I've been. And I've used the term youthing back in the 90s when nobody knew what that meant. They thought it meant working with teenagers or something. So I've had to not use that term until maybe 10 years ago. Other people started picking up and using it. So it's come into the mass consciousness. And I also feel the connection with immortality, because with these ideas that we don't have to age and die, I mean, that's like being immortal. And what does that mean? And people are, well, I don't want to be just a head sticking on ice. That's not my idea of immortality. And so for me, the immortality means that we're remaining youthful and vibrant, and so just carrying on, and also being in these same bodies. Of course, we can leave our bodies anytime we want, but in the development in this new age, shall we say, we are being given the gifts and abilities to, as our bodies morph into our light bodies, to retain these physical bodies but become more immortal or living as long as we want, but in good health and beauty.
Beautifully said. Yeah. For me, youthing is that no age, ageless, and being the source of your own physical well-being and health and vitality and all of that. So, but immortality for me is more than just being here in a body or any form. Immortality for me is I would say, a choice through many times, like this lifetime and perhaps others, or through eternity or whatever, that your being can be quite immortal, but it can also choose not to be immortal, because you could dissolve yourself back into the cosmic ooze and gift everything you got to the whole, and then come back fresh and new as something altogether. That's I kind of hold that view of things. So for me, it's not just physically here as well. So yeah. So anybody else on those topics want to weigh in? Yeah, Lynn.
So my name is Lynn Claire Feinberg. I'm in Oslo, Norway. I am actually ordained a rabbi, even though I don't practice as one in my daily life. So I've been, what shall I say, soul and such things have been part of my journey. And I think, it's not as if I think what I'm experiencing is that I'm more and more not identifying with this life and this body, and more sensing that I am this eternal essence, whatever that is, but it's more a sense of, and I think the more I am that, the less my story becomes important. It becomes just sort of, it's not primal, it's there, but it's not, it doesn't take forefront. And I think as I have been, especially through having to release a lot of trauma and stories from, like you said, Doriana, not from this lifetime, but from generations upon what aging is and what it means to be that age or that age. It's also about having to release those stories within myself, so that sort of like when but just because I'm that age doesn't mean that I have to be that way. And I think I've never felt that I was one age. I felt very old when I was young. So in a way, I feel younger now. So I don't know exactly how to maybe something else will come up as we talk along. But that's where I am right now.
So you've already integrated what we might call, you called your eternal self, and now, your immortal self, perhaps, if you want to call it that, right?
Well, at least I sense that as my sense of reference more than, yes. It's like the more I see that I am in that sense of reference, then everything else actually becomes irrelevant.
Yes. Me too.
Yeah. If my body were to die today, so fine. So then, but I won't die.
Yes. Yeah. I feel the same way. As I think we probably all do on this call. Yeah. Wonderful.
I think that's, yeah.
Yeah. So what's that stir in everybody else? Yeah, Mary.
And Mary. Okay. Yes, so I'm Mary Lunn. I live in Cornwall in the far southwest of the UK, sticking out into the Atlantic Ocean, which I love. And it's so interesting. When I began my day, I was very much in those stories and feeling, well, I've got nothing to offer. I don't think I'll even come and join in this conversation, because I was in that story of whatever, that bodily story. And what you were just saying, Lynn, really resonated for me. And there's something about that. I know my essence is immortal, and I also know that my body's changing, that I'm able to be different in the physical world this time around than I was before, perhaps. I don't know. I don't remember personally. I don't remember any past lives. I've had occasional glimpses, perhaps in different times, in things I've done in the past years, but not recently. So I don't remember that. But there's something about, I had a lovely conversation this morning with two women, which have been connected with some time. And they were saying that I'd introduced them to each other and how many other people they've met through knowing me, and all these connections, this sort of weave that I love, that weave of connections and the weave of the universe as we talk about it. And there's something there that will go on, that will go on eternally, regardless of what my body is doing. And that's, I know from my connection to people who've passed over that that's still going on, and they're still having fun out there doing whatever they're doing, which I can't see the half of it, that's all happening in my physical bodily self, just gets those glimpses. The more and more we tune in the way we work together, that gives me more and more of an insight, I think. So there's something there about allowing, being gentle with myself and allowing those humanness type things to be there, and say, that's okay. It's okay to feel that way in this way. And just to be with how my body wants to be on a particular day in some ways, but be aware that there are things I can do to help it feel better and to improve the way I feel, which is what I've been doing today to make myself feel more able to take part in the conversation. But there's something about this, it's all about paradox, isn't it, as you were saying earlier on, Claire. I think it's this and it's this, and it's this and it's this, and the other and the other. There's so many different mysteries in this amazing journey that we're all on together.
I'll jump in. My name's Eliza Bloom Robinson, and I'm in Arkansas, US. I'm saying also with Lynn, also ordained. I've spent the last 21 years as a unity minister, and in that context have often and always played with the soul essence goes on. So immortality has always been with me, but what's happened for me in the last, year or however long, some amount of time, somehow now it has an entirely different feel to it. It's like before it was theory. It was, later on after we die or whatever, but now it feels very real, very present. And I too would say if my body laid down right now, I'd be like totally fine. Like, oh, cool, next adventure, let's go get on the next ride. But there's also something happening for me around youthing and the idea of wholeness. And to me, it's like what I'm seeing in this group and in myself and in particularly with my client base is that as we're coming into more and more wholeness, it's like the youthing happens. It's kind of maybe the flip side of the coin from where Doriana plays, although maybe it's the exact same thing. I don't know, just a little bit different language. But in that wholeness also comes, for me, this from oneness to allness. It's like, so it doesn't matter. And what's really interesting in my life right now is my husband is not having that experience. As he's aging, he's feeling the effects of what we would call traditional aging. So he's having that experience while I'm over here getting younger and fuller and wholer and more expanded. That's the other piece. I think it's that expansion in my consciousness that both allows the experience of that, but also is almost causal to it. It's like the boundaries of my limited physical being at this particular age is becoming irrelevant, is dissolving in order to be more expansive in all of it.
Yeah, I would say a couple of things have happened in the last year to 2 years that I think are pointing to what you're saying. One is that I think we've come to a point of what I call wild open. I might need to get a better term for that, but it's like, whoa, open, like a love of life kind of open. And when you do that and you align with the greater game, the bigger purposes of life, bigger contribution, then the forces of the universe that are working for life roar through you. So you have great energy, you have the ability to rejuvenate your body in a new and different way. You have the vitality that makes you feel younger, and that ripples through the cells and the DNA and all of that. The second thing I think is that we've, especially in this group, and I think there's loads of people around the world too, have integrated sourceness. So it's like we do honor that greater power in the universe, you know, in the infinite, but we also know that we can be in awe of that at the same time. And when you know that, then anything's possible. So the idea of sourcing a physically vibrant and youthing body becomes a kind of like no-brainer, because you've got all the energy, all the vitality, all the excitement, all the good juicy stuff, the life force energy to have your body respond to that. So I think those are the two things that have brought that more present.
Could I just say, inferring what you said, just from the other perspective, I think a very key part of being able to enter into this process is not having the resistance when your body isn't doing what you want it to do. And so I've had my journeys with my body and realized that a significant percentage of that problem with the journey is the resistance to what is. So it's resisting the pain, resisting whatever else. So I just mentioned it because you were talking about paradoxes. And I was thinking the paradox is that the more you can accept when your body isn't working well, it actually seems to open you up to another. I mean, even this morning, I was like, oh, I really ache and everything else. I thought, well, if you stop resisting it and then just switched your focus to plugging into the infinite energy, and I'd be lying if I said I leapt out of bed right away, and I'd be embarrassed to say why I leapt out of bed. I think it was something to do with eating something not very healthy, but but you know, I'm just playing with all the sort of things. So paradox, yeah. And you all know this.
Madeline, would you just for a minute, just because in the last 3 to 4 weeks, something dramatically has changed for you. And I know that you bought the houses, but it's the swirl of magic. We called it that. But would you say something about that in regards to what we're talking about as youthing and immortality?
Oh, thank you. Yes, very briefly. I think because I've had a bigger vision and I've been excited about moving to Avalon, which is obviously very exciting. I haven't been consciously aware of it because we've been very focused. So it's not like I've been feeling ecstatically whatever, but I think it's just because it's part of divine purpose. That's the only thing I can imagine, that the universe seems to have picked me up and worked things out for us. And I've had phenomenal energy. In fact, I just came back from a walk around where I live. I've never walked that far. I've discovered bits of my own area that I'd never seen because I've never had this. I mean, I'm tired now, but I seem to be able to focus and do a lot of things, even though I'm not sleeping well. It feels as though I have plugged into some other form of energy. I'm taking enzymes. I'm taking a lot of enzymes, but it does feel as though there's something that's I'm plugging into something greater than myself that is giving me more energy, and not only short-term energy, but sustained energy. Is that what you wanted?
Yes, thank you. That's exactly that's exactly it. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So Christine or Centauri, you want to weigh in on this one?
Sure. I'm Christine Jennings. I usually am in Litchfield County, Connecticut, but at the moment I'm visiting California. And definitely have been surfing waves of contrast, where physically, as Lynn said earlier, when I stop identifying as a human with only this physical body and plug into whatever you want to call it, your higher self, your large self, your infinite being, and really relax. And as Madeline said, get out of resistance, just incredible shifts happen. And yes, pain and tiredness and, you know, these things show up, and that's okay. You know, you got a car, you got to put gas in it or it won't go. You know, you got to put good fuel in your body. And but being in that bigger, not surrendered really, but you're just not identified as this, you know, I've been calling it my human suit, you know, so it's more like, you know, fabric, like your costume, your dresses, your sweaters, your you know, it's, and then it becomes more flexible, and when I think of it as fabric, and I'm not so attached to it. And then I've watched my mom go through quite a arduous physical journey after an accident, and her energy and perspective is creating miraculous healing. And it's not because of anything she's eating or, you know, yes, of course she's doing exercises and PT, but I can see the evidence of her energy and her perspective and her way bigger than this body, you know, stuff that's going on. So it's yeah, and it just keeps going and growing. Yeah.
Centauri?
Centauri Green, 69, lives in the UK, married to Celera. We've been married for 25 years now. We've had many experiences together, shared experiences of making magic happen, basically, in our lives. I was just thinking that on my 50th birthday, we held a party, and there's a few people came to listen to, you know, because I did a little bit of a party thing about reciting my life and what I gained from various careers that I'd undertaken. And I told Celera at that party, I said, I'm going to live forever. And she said, I don't think I want to do that. I mean, you know, and then gives me the excuses about why she doesn't want to live forever. And I said, but you're not getting, you know, it's not message. I'm talking about something different than, you know, the human thinking about staying in the same body forever and a day. Yeah. I said, I'm talking about something different. And I think that's what we're really talking about now on this call. That's something different. That identification with something which is so tremendously vast and almost like impossible to conceive of as a normal human being, let's put it in quotes, who doesn't have experiences in the way that Celera and I and others have had experiences, energetic experiences, experiences which inform you that you're not just the human being living the human life, but that you're a multifaceted intelligence which seems to span whatever you conceive to be time and space and other dimensions and whatever, that it doesn't seem to have an end or beginning, and it doesn't seem to have any boundaries or limitations, because that is what a human being continually comes up against, limitations and boundaries and the thought beliefs of you can only do so much in your life and then you will start to age. And I think about the age thing. I'm going to say I'm 69 now, and it's almost like impossible to project into the future and say, well, I'm going to live another 100 years or 50 years or however long. So I'd be quite happy just to go, I'm done, and that would be it. But this year I had a heart operation, following a heart attack, and Celera was very relieved that I survived it. And she said, I don't think, you know, I don't want you to go just yet. I think we have many more years together. And I believe that you can look at energy in your body in a number of different ways. And so for the physical nature, I've realized that some days it's very difficult for me to go out and do a long walk or exercising or other activities which would require me to really physically move myself when my body isn't in that state. And I'd be very careful about what I eat. And we found out that I was deficient in B12, which is one of those vitamins that are really required for you to generate some energy in your body and to be able to absorb nutrients. So there is that side of the nature of being in physical form. But the other side of being in physical form is that the feeling that you're connected, the feeling that everything has come together and you know that you're immortal in some way and can identify with this source of endless creative energy that we're talking about. And I think when you come to a place of saying, I'm eternal and immortal, and I'm living in an eternal and immortal way in this eternal and immortal place, something changes in your understanding of life, and you will feel different. And there's got to come from a place of true recognition and a submission to letting go of the human with its thoughts and letting go even of the infinite being with its thoughts and what it would do, but feeling that you are completely timeless, that you exist as a creative something, and that you're here in this world to manifest and create and enjoy a life that is beyond measure, beyond description, beyond any circumstance that you were born into. Because it's almost like a new life takes over, a new sense of physical understanding and appreciation starts to become a new norm. And I think when you have that experience, you are not only lit up from inside, but you feel powerful, and powerful in a marvelous way, powerful in a beautiful way, powerful in a graceful way. And you can understand what other people are going through and relate to them from that perspective of life. That you would want everyone to have this experience of beauty, of so in flow and in touch with this amazing vista of experience that seems to occur inside you and beyond you when you open your eyes. And you feel that you are somehow something that's created itself and wants to know how this creation can be fully manifested, can be fully appreciated and valued and languaged and known, because there will be other moments in time when you are in another body and you'll bring that full value that you've created here and you'll build upon it and you'll relish what it is that's being continually created. And it's not going to be a human who's understanding this. It's going to be something which doesn't have a name and which far surpasses anything that any human has ever come across before in its life.
Beautifully said. Yeah, I can tell we're all nodding. I'm going to invite us to talk practically for a minute about what do you do that helps you to be like that, whether it's you thing, immortal, eternal, you know, what's that, give them kind of one or two things that you do. So I know for me, when I turned 60, that was really hard and I started to age. And it was because I still held the beliefs of aging because I hadn't dealt with it yet. I hadn't looked at it. And as soon as I realized it, I got a little way a few years in and I went, this doesn't have to be like this. I don't think this is so. And I dealt with the letting go of the beliefs and allowing the vitality of the life force of me to flood me. So now I'm so in love with life and I'm so filled with joy and I'm have so much energy and creativity and vitality as a result of allowing that flow of life force. And if somebody said, well, how do you do that? It's like, well, be in love with life helps. It brings your full being here, which is your life force, because it invites yourself to be present on earth. So I would say that's one of mine. I've got lots of physical, practical things like taking omega-3, 6, and 9 supplements and, you know, stuff like that. But in the bigger picture of it, I would say it's more like the vitality of the life force for me.
Yeah, I would like to add, when I turned 40 and people would say, oh, when you turn 40, then you have to start doing this when you read, and because your vision is starting, close up vision starting to go. And so I had that thought form in my head and I thought, you know, I'm not going to buy into that. So I got a book on Bates exercises and I started doing all that. And I stopped wearing my glasses for far vision, except if I really had to have them for something. And my near vision never got bad, never got worse. And my far vision even got better. And so then as life progressed and they said, you know, when you turn 50, then you're going to have menopause. I thought, okay, 50 menopause. And sure enough, that month I stopped bleeding. And that was the last time ever that I had that. And I didn't have any odd symptoms. I was taking vitamins and, you know, being good to my health. And then during that next 10 years, then I started gaining a lot of weight. It's like, well, then your hormones change or whatever. And so then I went on a scavenger hunt to stop gaining and to start doing things that I could see. So during all these phases, I encounter thought forms and mass consciousness that says, you know, when you're here, then that's going to happen. And if you eat this, that's going to happen. And if you do that, this is going to happen. And so I just turned over that leaf and make my thoughts be not in with those, but saying, okay, you know, if I eat cheese or if I eat chocolate, I'm going to get a pimple. And so sure enough, I would eat chocolate and then I'd get a pimple. Like, no, I don't want that anymore. So it's in noticing these things that add to the ways that we decay and decrepit and have all these faulty things going on. It's to change our mindset and our consciousness about that and start looking at it from a different level. And so I think mine has been gradual in tuning into these different things and then noticing how we can make our physical human lives even better, and then taking on that aspect of being in bliss and happiness and joy and enjoying our bodies and making our surroundings and everything be as joyful as possible, because we have that focus, that outlook that things are really great. So it's our attitude has, you know, a great thing to do with that.
Can I just say that's absolutely what's happened to us. I was really on the cusp of a shall we stay where we are? Which would have been fine. It's not a bad life where we have. But to me, that just felt a bit like, you know, okay, we're middle-aged, we're going to settle for our slippers and we're just going to stay here. Whereas moving represented an adventure, a whole new lease of life. And when I was looking at it, it was like, oh, this is a bit scary. So I went through I'll just stay here, but then that was unbearable. And whatever it is that is beckoning me to go to Avalon, I really do feel as though it picked us up and has scooped us along there, you know, despite whatever's going on in my head. But I think I would say, I met a chap and he was saying, oh, you know, your body's, he was old and he was saying, your body starts to go and you get bored. And so I told them all about you, Miraculous Maestros. I said, oh, I've got friends, they plug into the infinite energy. And I said, and they do things they love. I said, go and find something new and interesting that you love. And he looked at me a bit, and then, but he's a thinker. So I think he will go and do that, and he'll be fine.
I was just going to respond to the question about what we do to keep ourselves in that energy. I mean, my way of doing that is connecting with nature. And I'm very fortunate with where I live. I can walk on the cliffs and the beaches and really connect with the power of the ocean and the wind and the wildlife and just feel a part of that whole energy. But I was also thinking back to when I was in hospital, which was 27 years ago now. My mother, who was a very wise woman, instead of bringing me cut flowers, she brought me a living plant to have by my bed in the hospital. And it was one of those Brazilian, what are they called? Maybe is it busy Lizzie? Can't remember, something like that. But anyway, it's a beautiful plant with these gorgeous pink flowers on it. It's absolutely covered in blossoms. And you know, I was in hospital for 10 days, not all that long, but long enough to really, really appreciate this beautiful plant. And she'd chosen it carefully because I'm allergic to a lot of flowers with strong perfumes and a lot of pollen. It didn't have that, and it was just so beautiful. And just feeling that connection, you know, in this place, which was a big hospital. I could see the sky out the window. I was lucky for that, but it was, you can't really see very much when you're lying in the bed in hospital. And I've always had things around me just outside my window where I can see even when I can't go anywhere for various reasons. And I can always imagine myself back on the cliffs as well. But there's that element of being so strongly in that energy that if I want to experience the energy of the ocean, I can just be there without having to actually be able to go there. And doesn't take practice, it just takes belief. I think belief that I could truly do that, and I know I can. I can, as in the same way as I could, you know, soar off into space and have some fun out there with all of you that we play in that energetic space. And something about that, exactly what you said, Maddie, about always having something to be excited about and interested in, and something new to learn. And there always is. There's always, you know, something new plant I see, or a new bird I don't recognize, or something to look up and find out about, new people to meet, all those different excitements. Is that childlike wonder at the world we live in. That's such an amazing, glorious place.
I love what Mary just said, and I totally agree with getting into nature by nature. And if you can't be in it physically, go there in a creative visualization, take yourself there, because you can bring that vibration into your body no matter where you are. And the other thing I do, because I'm a real thinker, I live a lot in my head, is I do things that get me out of my head, like dance, listen to music, and also challenge the thoughts. You know, like everyone has just said, you know, I'm not buying into that aging thing. And believe me, I have been turning that corner of a certain age where I'm like, oh, all this stuff's going to start happening. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I have all of you, these beautiful examples, what's possible. So I sometimes will just say, I'm willing to believe there's another way. And then I go look for evidence for the other way. And I do something called thought work, where I write down, and I'll kind of excavate my beliefs, and then I'll get curious if they're really true or if they're serving me. Even if I believe they're true, I'll say, is this really helpful? No. So just, you know, and surrounding yourself with people that are willing to think differently and be, you know, out of the box, so to speak. But I think those have been most helpful for me.
I love too, Christine, that you rollerblade and bought a motorcycle this year. I think that's like, wow, that's pretty wonderful.
Yeah, definitely going on the adventurous, fun rides. Yeah, that's also helpful.
Yeah, brilliant. Yep. Anybody else? Yeah, Lynn.
You know, I've been sort of listening to all of you and thinking all of the above, but I'm just thinking it's been a lifelong journey, really, because because from when I was 20, my whole life went upside down, and then I've had to unravel since. And in that unraveling, I've been terribly sick, and I had to almost kind of stage my own death in order to kind of get to another place and to let go of so much. And I mean, in the journey, there's been a lot of helpers, and I wouldn't be here without them. Like, you know, good therapists, good people who've been working with me on the physical level, whether it's rolfing or homeopathy or, you know, reflexology, and now an osteopath I still continue to go to. And 12 years ago, I started doing yoga regularly, and also, of course, diet and knowing and understanding, and vitamins and minerals and B12 for certain, and now also intermittent fasting. And I realized sort of the joy of sensing how my body is functioning without having to use food as a way of numbing things that come up. And also I bought an electrical bicycle last year, so I'm also having great fun bicycling around. And more than anything, I have now 3 grandchildren, and I think they also really help. But I think it's my own daily practice and having to, and also the spiritual work. I mean, I wouldn't be without that either. And having tools to go to, like yours sharing, Christian, that there are ways that I can address where I'm stuck and do something about it, and on my own, but sometimes also call in people to help me, but not that I'm also able to do it by myself, which I think it gives a kind of a sense of power. So all those things, and I suppose more, yeah. And also more and more clean food definitely is something that's part of my regime now.
Sorry, it's me again. I just want to say something very quickly, which is there are all those things we can do at the human level that help with youthing. So absolutely thumbs up for those. But I had a peculiar experience yesterday on our call where we were looking at letting go of that human thing. And I started to really feel it because I'm really starting to connect. I'm feeling the connection with all of you. And, you know, sort of it's taking me to a higher realm. And I feel the connection with other people. So I had this feeling, and I joked, didn't I? I said, I'm melting. You know, I felt like my body was melting. And then we were talking about something else. And I just had this distinct sense in which there is we know that there's a higher realm that we go to and we float about and we plug into the infinite energy. But I had the sense that there was yet another higher realm. I don't know what it is, but I think we were talking about it, weren't we? We were saying that there is something even beyond what we have conceived and imagined in terms of plugging into an infinite energy and everything else. And I just caught this glimpse. It was like a sort of shimmering possibility. And so that really got my curiosity. I was like, ooh. And I think that's perhaps why this morning when I woke up aching, I was more able to go, oh, well, okay, don't resist that, because there's this other thing. I don't even know what it is, but it seems as though someone or something is bringing it to us, and all of you are, you know, plugged into it, and that's what keeps me going. So I guess the other thing I would say is, if you want to do the youth thing 101, go and join other people on the same program, because they inspire you. And I'm so grateful to have connected with all of you who've expanded my awarenesses and possibilities. So from a child, I always knew I was infinite, and I was always pushing myself to do more than I could do. And then my body said, just wait a minute. So I've been on a very long journey. So I'd just like to say, you might think, if you're listening, oh, it's all right for you, like you've all been healthy all your lives. No. There are a lot of us here who've been on you know, challenging journeys physically, which has forced us to go and look. And, you know, sometimes I'm still wrestling with it, but I just know, exactly as Christine said, there is another way. And if you can keep pointing yourself in that other way. So I went out walking the other day, and my thyroid's gone a bit weird. And I just bumped into this guy and he said, oh, try Irish moss. So the universe starts sending you people who tell you what it is you need to take. That's another fun thing.
Christine's had to go, so just so everybody knows who's watching it, her mum's up and she had to go take care of her. So yeah, Eliza, go for it.
Yeah, so much rich stuff that I can just agree and repeat and repeat and repeat. But I think if I were to just distill it down to a single thing for me, it is about putting yourself in a place of a new possibility, whether that is hanging out with people or doing the adventure or lining up. I play with a frequency device. So I use that as a tool. I've got it on right now. I'm running coherence as a tool, one of many, to keep my vibration high, to keep myself in infinite possibilities. But all of that engagement with life opens up life flow. That's kind of goes circles back around to kind of almost where you started, Solara. And every time you're engaged, then that life force can flow through, and that is all going to bring us into coherence and support our cells on a biological level, and all of the spiritual and mental and emotional. It just keeps us clean and flowing and thriving and loving life.
So I'd like to follow on from something that Maddie was saying about, you know, we haven't been doing this perhaps for a number of years relentlessly. Back when I had my heart operation, I was in a place where I felt disconnected, let's say, from that place where I know boundless energy to be. And it took me basically about 5 months of looking after my health, eating foods that I felt were right for me, taking multivits, feeling those moments where I just needed to rest, and so I would have to rest because there wasn't the energy to sustain any activity. So that was very much a sense of coming back to myself and wondering when the reconnection would take place. So for people who wonder about this connection, that process that we might be talking about, it is something that you would look at for yourself as your own unique way of doing what we are talking about. And so if you feel that you go out to connect, or if you feel that you go inside yourself to make a connection, doesn't really matter. But the thing is, you really have to be quite willing to say, I am going now to get this connection established fully and completely. And you say it to yourself, and you say it to the universe, and you have this willingness to settle for nothing less, that somehow you and the universe are going to become one. And whenever you say something out loud, or say something, you know, with finality to yourself, even in your innermost thoughts and thinking, your body takes notice. Your body is aware of that. There is, as Eliza said, a coherence that takes place between your thinking, your feeling, your words, the language you use, and the whole possibility that something is going to take place which really would shape your existence from that moment on. And I think that's what I found possible once again. I rediscovered the ability to regain connection to joy and possibility and flow and wonder and magic, and to be able to appreciate that I can just put my hand out and I can feel the substance of the earth, and I can feel the celestial skies, and I can understand that there is a language which hasn't been taught to us, but which we intimately have an awareness of, and we acquire it almost like by being open to it. And that language is an ability to be able to transcend thought, feeling, and anything we might have created up to this moment, because there's always something more that is going to be almost brought into the field of consciousness, and you will examine it, and you won't look at it to say, I know what this is. You'll say, this is unknown to me, but I will feel what can be done with this moment, with this connection, with this engagement with life. And that, I think, is the measure of coming to realize that we have superseded and transcended everything that we thought was going to be our life's purpose and what we are here for. And I would say that we will transcend it again and again and again. And there won't be an end point to who we are and what we do. Because the moment that you believe that there's an end point, there's a stop. Creation stops. And you believe in some part of you that something is wrong. You know, that you've got to rework this. And if you engage in thoughts, the thoughts may go round and round, but you have to drop even the thoughts that said there's something wrong. You just have to go with the knowingness that there's an engagement that really requires you to be fully aware and fully open, and to want to have an experience beyond all lifetimes. And once you've got that sort of like in its place, then you start to wonder, what am I going to be like in the forthcoming years, in the next few years? Oh, I'm going to savor them. I'm going to awake each morning to something new and inspiring. I am going to be the creator of this new life that I feel is just right there in front of me. And I will not wait for it to be given to me, because I will be actively engaged in its creation. And I think that's the difference between what we've had before and what we have now. It is not going to be given to you. It is something that you actively engage with and create and want to have as your next experience of life.
Yeah, nicely said. I would say that as I think we all hold the excitement of the possibility of quantum leaping continually forever into whatever the next version of us is. Okay, we'll just wrap it up. But I just want to say that I have the feeling that Dorianne has been pulsing out youthingness to us all. And maybe the rest of you too, but I could tell you were doing that, Dorianne. So thank you. So maybe we could all just line up and just gift to everybody watching the energy, the vibe, the feel of that, whatever it is that's yours to gift. Okay, here we go. Beautiful. Lovely. Okay. Oh, thank you all. You're just too wonderful for words. So I hope everybody watching this has got loads from it and enjoyed it and finds your own way to unleash that joie de vivre and the youthfulness and the immortality, the eternalness, the infiniteness of you. So thanks, everybody.
Until the next one.